Hi, Tommy Heffernan here with Precision Microbes. So we did a video earlier on with Hannah on the trial on the farm here, and you can go back and watch it, but I couldn't let Hannah go without talking about calf health because she's incredibly passionate about it. She's done a no-field, she's some really interesting takes which I want to capture as well because it's a very important message and I want to hear people want to share it. So people who haven't seen the first video on the calf trial we did, maybe just introduce yourself again, Hannah.
Yeah, I'm Hannah. So I'm a farm vet in the Midlands, predominantly working with dairy clients and absolutely obsessed with calf health. To me, it is one of the most dynamic, exciting and kind of inspiring parts of the business because ultimately that is your milk in the tank in 2 years' time and you can make such a massive difference very quickly.
Yeah, and we're in a beautiful unit here. We've met Andy. So let's go back to calf health. I heard you speak in October, and okay, when we think about the fundamentals of calves, maybe if you're going out on the farm, say from just wearing your pure traditional veterinary hat, because you've kind of evolved your thinking, but go back to your pure veterinary hat. What are the kind of key things you want to drive when it comes to the calf themselves and health on farm?
Yeah, okay, so every single unit that I step onto, I'm looking at a balance. So the balance is effectively immunity versus challenge.
Yeah.
And if you can maximize immunity and minimize challenge and effectively feed the calf as well as you possibly can, you're going to get success.
Yeah.
So simple things like looking at feeding programs, looking at incidence of disease, looking at the shine on the calves, general vigor. But then I also think we need to remember the people, because to me, animal welfare and people welfare are intrinsically linked. Okay. So often it's making sure that I engage with whoever it is that is working with those calves. Okay,
and I think that's the evolution piece. I quite like that people piece as well. And you really caught my imagination when I heard you speak at that conference. And you are a couple of months out post your no-field. People can go and look up that your no-field topic. What was it again?
People, processes, potential, a blueprint for great team management on UK dairy farms.
Okay, because dairy farms are getting bigger, we've discussed this. You have numerous people, some people coming in part-time, some people full-time, different nationalities, etc. So you've become very focused on the team and an effective team.
Yeah.
So you've come up with 3 words to kind of outline this principle of team building. Can you tell people what we need to be thinking? And I suppose keep it from a practical point of view, some ideas maybe some farms can use when they think about team.
Yeah, okay. So to me, everybody should be asking themselves 3 questions, like you say. The very first one is why. Why are we doing what we are doing? And I think sometimes in the day-to-day grind of the job, I appreciate farms are very busy. There's often a lot of work to do in quite a small amount of time. I think you can sometimes lose sight of that. So what is the purpose of that business? Why are you doing? And particularly when we come back to calf rearing, what is the purpose of calf rearing? Ultimately, it is to get a very healthy animal that is going to persist into second lactation, because that's when she's going to start earning us money.
Okay.
So I think going back to that why, clarifying it, and again, that might be slightly different for different farm teams. So making sure that everybody within your team understands that is critical. The next question is who. Okay, who is in your team? And this is where a little bit of self-awareness development, I think, is key. Understand the different personality traits, understand those strengths and weaknesses. You alluded to Andy. One of Andy's key strengths is that he is meticulous and has very high attention to detail and loves consistency. So for me, that's the absolute perfect recipe for a calf rearer.
And I have to sing that again because I spend a lot of time, a bit like you, looking at calf health, and I have a very boring message, attention to detail and consistency.
Yeah.
Why I would make a pretty terrible calf rearer, but Andy makes an amazing calf rearer because you can see in the yard here, everything's done well.
Exactly.
He doesn't want it to be wrong, and calves love consistency and attention to detail. So that's the personality type thing that you do on farms. You look at the different people and how they gel together. Is that what it is?
Exactly, yeah. So, there's all different things online. There's lots of different variations of personality and profiling, but effectively just understanding who you've got within your team and how to get the most out of their strengths is what it boils down to. And also how they communicate effectively together, because don't forget, animals are often the simple bit, people the tricky bit, and that boils down to communication. So if we can make sure that we communicate clearly and effectively, we're going to get more success. And then finally, the third question I think everybody should ask themselves is how. So how are we going to do this? I think we need to start with the outcome, which is why asking yourself that why at the very start is key. What outcome are we going to do? And then getting the whole team involved in how we're going to achieve that. I don't know if you're anything like me, but I'm a little bit stubborn. So if somebody comes up to me and says, you need to do this, this is what you want to do.
You might do the opposite, isn't it?
Tommy, I think I'm going to be walking off the yard, never mind doing the opposite.
Okay.
And so making sure we involve the whole team in how we're going to do this will make sure that our team are intrinsically motivated, they're keen, they want to be involved. And if things aren't going slightly right, they're more likely to tell you why or come up with suggestions of how to improve it themselves.
Okay, so this, if you go back 10 years ago, this is the sort of stuff they were talking about in Google and places like
Yeah.
that, in big corporations around team. It can be a little bit fluffy sometimes. I'm a believer now, just to put it in perspective, but what has the engagement been like when you do? Because I visited practice yesterday and you had just finished a chat with farmers. What's the engagement been like to this concept of maybe looking a little bit deeper into the people piece?
Yeah, it's actually been really positive. I think a lot of people find it quite interesting and are sometimes quite surprised. And my favourite bit of it is that you see a penny drop moment. So particularly when we've done personality profiling on farm, and it's usually in quite a relaxed setting, there's this penny drop moment of, oh yeah, that's why, Tommy is the way Tommy is, and actually he's not just being a pain in the backside.
Right.
It's because that's his natural default. So if I want to get the most out of Tommy, I need to talk to him in a particular way. So that's been really useful. We've found that there's been some nice grounds of communication and rules, if you like, that some of the other units I've worked with have done, and ultimately it's got the team more focused. So sometimes it might just be a drop-in session, but with the majority of farms, what I found is that we'll do one session to start with and then have some follow-on visits where we just kind of crystallise the goals for the next 12 months and the whole team is engaged in that.
I love the way you've thought differently about it, and you've looking at some of the age-old challenges, because we know calf health's a challenge, and it's just a new angle, and it's a very important angle on people. So I continued success. I think it's something you're going to probably evolve, and there's a big difference when the rubber meets the road, where you can actually see it working, as opposed to theory. We're all good at theory. It's easy to farm with a pen, not a plough. So I have actually seen how you've implemented it. So continued success, and thank you for doing the trial, which you can watch the other video on, and also for letting me spend the last 24 hours kind of shadowing you, meeting your customers, and for what you're doing post your Nuffield and the way you're thinking. And you're a very important asset to your clients, but even to the industry over here. I think we need that type of people in here as well. So well done you.
Real. No, thanks, Tommy.
Super.
Cheers.